Excuse me. All right, y'all. We live in most places. Hey, everybody. Y'all, we're in a new month. It is October the 1st, 2021, day 267 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 936. Today, we're going to start the book of Job, chapter 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to pick up where we left off in Caesar's Messiah yesterday, in chapter 7. Go free today.
You think so?
Let the sun beat down upon it.
I ain't beat no sun.
It might not.
No, I'm joking.
LaVon, Blessings, Trina, Tiffany, hey girls, hey. You too. Top of the day, everybody. Okay, we'll put it on back. Mom, shalom, shalom. Okay, y'all. Let's go ahead and start here pulling up the shimmer. I'm feeling better and better every day. Like today, I feel better than I felt yesterday. Like every day, like there's different levels of feeling better, but literally, like each day, I feel better and better. Okay, y'all. Shimmer. Found Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verse 3. Remember, go read the whole thing. I just kind of summed up the meat and potatoes for you. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it.
Hey, babe, did ginger ale don't do that to you?
It kind of helps settle my stomach a little bit.
For real though?
Yeah. But what I'm extremely grateful for is they didn't break me out.
That's what I was just about to say.
Yeah, I noticed that it hasn't. I don't know.
Only what? 2 days? You only drank it yesterday, right? But it usually the day after you usually.
Yesterday and the day before yesterday, I had one because I've been watching my face. I was like, this.
How you had one day before yesterday?
The single. No, well, it wasn't the day before yesterday.
Right.
That the day after.
Oh, that one day. Okay, you're right. Yeah. You're sure right. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I got this thing about sodas. They don't really like me too much. I gotta stay away from them. Might be. Okay. Look good either way, babe.
Thank you, Sheila.
Look good.
Keep on, you have another baby.
Children are a blessing from Yahuwah, but the way my morning sickness set up, and what I just went through, absolutely not. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it.
God, I love you.
I love you too, babe. That it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily as Yahuwah, the mighty one of our fathers, has promised us in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our mighty one, he is one. And you shall love Yahuwah, your mighty one, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children. And you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do these statutes, to fear Yahuwah, our mighty one, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah, our mighty one, as he has commanded us. I'll tell you, I just saw your comment. I'll tell him, you said, hey, he came back in. Okay. James Scott Lover, good morning. Good morning. Okay, y'all. Pulling up this. Okay, y'all. Job chapter 1. Okay. Now, believe it or not, the whole week I was gone. Although I didn't have my laptop, my children were using it. Well, not really, because I had to type in the password. I did let Josh use it, but now I'm without a mouse again. Okay, Job, the prologue. There was once a man named Job who lived in the land of Uz. He was blameless, a man of complete integrity. He feared Yah and stayed away from evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 teams of oxen, and 500 female donkeys. He also had many servants. He was, in fact, the richest person in that entire area. Tiffany said, "Hey, King James."
What's going on? What is going on?
Job's sons would take turns preparing feasts in their homes, and they would also invite their 3 sisters to celebrate with them. It's that it's really cooling off out there.
It's chilly out there today, man.
Yeah.
Too bad I gotta go out there.
When these celebrations ended, sometime after several days.
What that mean?
I appreciate it.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh. Let me go to work, man. I'm about to sit down.
Have a seat.
Nah, I gotta go.
You the boss.
I gotta make the donuts. All
right, babe, love you too. Okay. When these celebrations ended, sometime after several days, Job would purify his children. He would get up early in the morning and offer a burnt offering for each of them. For Job said to himself, excuse me. For Job said to himself, perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. This was Job's regular practice. Job's first test. One day, the members of the heavenly court came to present themselves before Yahuwah, and the accuser, Satan, came with them. Where have you come from? Yahuwah asked Satan. Satan answered Yahuwah, I have been patrolling the earth, watching everything that's going on. Then Yahuwah asked Satan, have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil. Satan replied to Yahuwah, yes, but Job has good reason to fear Yahuwah. You have always put a wall of protection around him and his home and his property. You have made him prosper in everything he does. Look how rich he is. But reach out and take away everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. Shalom, shalom, Hezekiah. All right, you may test him, Yahuwah said to Satan. Do whatever you want with everything he possesses, but don't harm him physically. So Satan left Yahuwah's presence. One day when Job's sons and daughters were feasting at the oldest brother's house, a messenger arrived at Job's home with this news. Your oxen were plowing with the donkeys feeding beside them when the Sabians raided us. They stole all the animals and killed all the farmhands. And I'm the only one who escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another messenger arrived with this news. The fire of Yahuwah has fallen from heaven and burned up your sheep and all the shepherds. I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, a third messenger arrived with this news. 3 bands of Chaldean raiders have stolen your camels and killed your servants. I am the only one who escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another messenger arrived with this news. Your sons and daughters were feasting in their oldest brother's home. Suddenly, a powerful wind swept in from the wilderness and hit the house on all sides. The house collapsed and all your children are dead. I am the only one who escaped to tell you. Job stood up and tore his robe in grief. Then he shaved his head and fell to the ground to worship. He said, I came naked from my mother's womb, and I will be naked when I leave. Yahuwah gave me what I had, and Yahuwah has taken it away. Praise the name of Yahuwah. In all of this, Job did not sin by blaming Yah. Shalom, obedient to Yah. Shalom. Job chapter 2. Job's second test. One day, the members of the heavenly court came again to present themselves before Yahuwah, and the accuser Satan came with them. Where have you come from? Yahuwah asked Satan. Satan answered Yahuwah, I have been patrolling the earth, watching everything that's going on. Then Yahuwah asked Satan, have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears Yahuwah and stays away from evil. He has maintained his integrity, even though you urge me to harm him without cause. Satan replied to Yahuwah, skin for skin. A man will give up everything he has to save his life. But reach out and take away his health, and he will surely curse you to your face. All right, do with him as you please, Yahuwah said to Satan, but spare his life. So Satan left Yahuwah's presence. Excuse me. So Satan left Yahuwah's presence, and he struck Job with terrible boils from head to foot. Job scraped his skin with a piece of broken pottery as he sat among the ashes. His wife said to him, "Are you still trying to maintain your integrity? Curse God and die." But Job replied, "You talk like a foolish woman. Should we accept only good things from the hand of Yahuwah and never anything bad?" So in all of this, Job said nothing wrong. Shayla, hey, girl, hey. Job's three friends share his anguish. When three of Job's friends heard of the tragedy he had suffered, they got together and traveled from their homes to comfort and console him. Their names were Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Namathite. When they saw Job from a distance, they scarcely recognized him. Wailing loudly, they tore their robes and threw dust into the air over their heads to show their grief. Then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and nights. No one said a word to Job, for they saw that his suffering was too great for words. Hey guys, can y'all turn it down just a little bit, please? Last chapter for the day, y'all, Job chapter 3. Job's first speech. At last, Job spoke, and he cursed the day of his birth. He said, "Let the day of my birth be erased, and the night I was conceived. Let that day be turned to darkness. Let it be lost even to Yahuwah on high, and let no light shine on it. Let the darkness and utter gloom claim that day for its own. Let a black cloud overshadow it, and let the darkness terrify it. Let that night be blotted off the calendar, never again to be counted among the days of the year, never again to appear among the months. Let that night, excuse me, let that night be childless. Let it have no joy. Let those who are experts at cursing, whose cursing could rouse Leviathan, curse that day. Let its morning stars remain dark. Let it hope for light, but in vain. May it never see the morning light. Curse that day for failing to shut my mother's womb, for letting me be born to see all this trouble. Why wasn't I born dead? Why didn't I die as I came from the womb? Why was I laid on my mother's lap? Why did she nurse me at her breast? Had I died at birth, I would now be at peace. I would be asleep and at rest. I would rest with the world's kings and prime ministers, whose great buildings now lie in ruins. I would rest with princes, rich in gold, whose palaces were filled with silver. Why wasn't I buried like a stillborn child, like a baby who never lives to see the light? For in death the wicked cause no trouble, and the weary are at rest. Even captives are at ease in death, with no guards to curse them. Rich and poor are both there, and the slave is free from his master. Or why give light to those in misery and life to those who are bitter? They long for death, and it won't come. They search for death more eagerly than for hidden treasure. They're filled with joy when they finally die, and rejoice when they find a grave. Why is life given to those with no future? Those Yahuwah has surrounded with difficulties. I cannot eat for sighing. My groans pour out like water. What I have always feared has happened to me. What I dreaded has come true. I have no peace, no quietness. I have no rest. Only trouble comes. And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. That was Job 1, 2, and 3. Alicia, hey girl, hey. Robert, that's Wabu. Okay, y'all. That was kind of quick today, right? I know I still got this little cough. Excuse me, y'all. I would joke and say I ain't got the vid, but well, we know I was gone for a week. but I can tell though. I can tell I haven't. Tiffany, I still been doing that the video that you sent me with the calves for the pressure points and stuff. It has been helping. Although from the first time I did, I didn't cough that whole night till the next morning. I got up and started talking. But I can definitely tell when I do cough, it's not like it was where you can hear like the rumbling in my chest and stuff. It's like dry and it's just like, you know, like it's like somebody would have normal cough, like they're trying to clear their throat or something, you know. So, but I can definitely tell it's getting better. I'm guessing it'll be completely gone in the next couple of days. So, you know, I'm gonna do good with my green juice today. The next few days until it's, you know, completely gone. Thank you, Shalom, yes, sir. Okay, y'all. We stopped on page 20. Oh, wow. We stopped on page 206. Oh, yeah, I had the sticker in place for yesterday. Okay, so yesterday we were going through the probabilities and the chain of multiplication as they were explaining how the disciples running back and forth between the two tombs, not realizing whose tomb it really was, whether it was Jesus' tomb or Lazarus' tomb, and he brought all those accounts together. So he began to explain about the chain of multiplication and probability while gambling and stuff, and showing you how they use that method when they put the gospels together. He explained about, like, if you go to the gambling hall or whatever and you play the slots, the cherries. He explained how what the probability is with getting 5 cherries straight across the board and what the ratio is. And so he explained it because there are 4 different gospels and 4 different accounts, but similar accounts. So he wanted to explain the probability and using the example of the cherries on the slot machine on how that was working throughout the gospels. And so, like, the first, if there was like 4, he said 5, but for the sake of the gospel, since it's 4 gospels, he said that there was 5 slots, and the first 3 would get a cherry, 1 in every 3 pulls. But that last slot, the 5th slot, you would get a cherry once in every 1,000 pulls. So he multiplied the odds 3 times 3 times 3. Since he used 5, he used 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times, what was it? 1,000, and got this number. I think it was 9,100. So 1 in every 9,100 pulls, you would get a cherry. The probability was excellent for you getting cherries straight across the board, right? So when he broke that down and explained that, he began to explain how that works, that same theory.
No sense. Free return.
It's still $199, Isaiah.
Well, you have a lot of money.
So, but we're not just gonna buy your stuff.
I want how much until my birthday?
A whole year. Your birthday just passed. Because if we get you one, all your brethren and your sister is gonna want one too.
No.
That's $200, $400, $600, $800, and that's not including the tax. What?
I can buy my own game up here.
You better keep saving, son. Move this.
Mom.
Wait, what you mean you can buy your own game on that? So you're gonna buy the game without the game system? How does that work?
Mom, I have to buy it on this. Mom, this it comes with a thing where you hook it up into the TV. You take these out, you put it in there, then it puts the game up onto the TV.
Yeah, I know how it works, son. Go ahead, take that in there. I don't know.
In our new house. Can we get it now?
I don't know, son. They just ask for everything. They don't care. Isaiah and it's probably my fault. I'm a big Amazon shopper. I'm glad there's no account hooked up to Isaiah's laptop. How old are you?
Reverse walked.
Okay, go back. Reverse walk out of here, son.
Okay.
7 years old, scrolling Amazon like he gonna purchase stuff. He got stuff added to his Amazon cart,
body forces
and it totals up to about $2,589,456. Get out of here, Zay. Stop. Okay, listen. Look. Okay. Okay. See, that's what he's trying to buy, y'all. A Nintendo Switch Lite. No, they don't need any more kind of game consoles. That's
Mom,
no.
The Wii is broken.
Hey, who broke it? That sounds like a personal problem. Y'all need to figure that out.
No one broke it, but just
Okay, sorry, y'all. So he was explaining how the Gospels, those who created the Piso family, how they use those same probability type odds to bring the stories together. So the story standing alone, if you would look at the four gospels standing alone, there are contradictions. But when you actually put them together, you can see how it was. You would have to understand that they weren't created just by happenstance. They were created like they were to keep you aloof of what was really going on. So you can't really understand the story, like I said, if you don't have them together in that main story so you can see exactly what was going on. And when you saw exactly what was going on, you will realize it wasn't Jesus's tomb where they actually arrived at. It was Lazarus. So he called it a comedy of errors while explaining. If you've been here, you get it. So that was just my quick overview of everything. So we're going to pick back up. I'll start with the last paragraph that we read yesterday, and then we'll just keep going. Okay. Excuse me. Thus, the chain of multiplication to determine the probability that four distinct authors could record these exact facts by chance would be 4 by 3 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 3 by 2 by 2 by 4 by 3 by 2 by 4 by 3 by 2 by 4 by 2 by 3 by 2, which equals one chance in 254,803,968. This demonstrates that the four distinct authors did not create the combined story by chance and that it was therefore intentionally created. This proof is just as conclusive as, for example, the DNA probabilities that are used in our day and age to match the blood left at a crime scene with that of a suspect. In fact, DNA probabilities are determined using an approach similar to the one above. My theory is also solid in the sense that it is so easily disprovable. In other words, excuse me, specialists in probability can easily demonstrate any errors in my premises or conclusion. In fact, any curious reader can simply retrace my steps and come to an independent judgment. If the combined version of the four stories has not been obvious to scholars before, it is because the contradictions within the four passages are designed to hide the combined version. Bless you. These contradictions must be resolved before one can easily see the satiric version that the four passages create. The authors were, in effect, demanding that the reader be logical before, excuse me, the authors were in effect demanding that the reader be logical before being permitted to see the truth. Other than the contradiction involving Simon Peter and Peter mentioned above, all the apparent contradictions between the four different versions of the first visit to Jesus' tomb involve a character named Mary Magdalene. Within the four versions of the story, she is said to arrive at the tomb at four different times and with different people, to have touched and not touched Jesus, and to have told and not told the disciples that the tomb was empty. All logical impossibilities. However, if the female characters in the four versions of the visit to the tomb were not all named Mary Magdalene, but were each given a different name, say Mary, Ruth, Esther, and Elizabeth, then these contradictions would not exist, and the satiric relationship between the Virgin and John, where the two disciples raced to the tomb. I'm sorry, where the two disciples let me just read that whole sentence again. I screwed it up. Hold on. However, if the female characters in the four versions of the visit to the tomb were not all named Mary Magdalene, but were each given a different name, say Mary, Ruth, Esther, and Elizabeth, then these contradictions would not exist, and the satiric relationship between the Virgin and John, where the two disciples race to the tomb, and the other versions, where the visitors encounter angels, would have become visible. And angels, if you don't have the book, it has the quotes around angels, right? Because we realize that they weren't really angels, right? Okay. In fact, As readers can ascertain for themselves, the comic version would become all too apparent, and Christianity might not be a worldwide religion today. Thus, Christianity's very viability can be said to depend on the notion that all the characters named Mary Magdalene in the New Testament are the same individual. However, it is not possible that all the Mary Magdalenes in the four Gospels are the same person. The authors create two methods that enable any logical reader to determine this. First, as noted above, it is physically impossible for a single Mary Magdalene to do everything ascribed to her in the four stories. Mary Magdalene cannot first visit the tomb at different times. She cannot both be telling Simon Peter that the tomb has had its stone rolled away and at the same time be coming with spices to anoint Jesus. Also, each of the first visits she makes to the tomb is with different individuals, another physical impossibility. Further, the Mary Magdalene in the Gospel of Mark, who is told to tell Peter that Jesus has risen, is said to have told no one. However, the Mary Magdalenes in Luke and Mark do tell the disciples that he has risen. Therefore, logically, neither can be the Mary Magdalene in Mark. Likewise, the Mary Magdalene in John cannot be the Mary Magdalene in Matthew because the Mary in John is not permitted to touch Jesus, whereas in Matthew, she is described as clinging to his feet. Therefore, a rational reader must conclude that each Mary Magdalene is a distinct character. The illogical reader, that is, the one who takes the New Testament seriously and therefore sees Jesus as divine, must accept the contradictions that the four versions of the first visit of the let me start over, get tongue tied. The illogical reader, that is, the one who takes the New Testament seriously and and therefore sees Jesus as divine, must accept the contradictions that the four versions of the first visit to Jesus' tomb create. Such a reader accepts that Mary Magdalene first visits the tomb at different times and with different people, that she both touches and does not touch Jesus, and that she both tells and does not tell the disciples that Jesus has risen. The authors of the gospel, the authors of the gospels may have believed that such a reader deserves and perhaps even needs Jesus. For the logical reader who understands that each Mary Magdalene must be a separate character, these contradictions are resolved. The contradictions regarding the time of the first visit, the different number of people in the group that visits the tomb first, as well as how many angels the different groups find near the tombs, are all resolved by the single insight. As are the contradictions of Mary Magdalene's touching and not touching Jesus, and her telling and not telling the disciples that Jesus has risen. This single insight allows the truth, that is, the combined version, to be seen. Moreover, Mary Magdalene, like Jesus Christ, can also be seen as a title, not just a name. Mary Magdalene simply mean, I'm sorry. Mary Magdalene means simply Mary from Magdala, a town in Galilee. From the Roman perspective, any rebellious female, that is, any Mary from Magdala, would be a Mary Magdalene. Remember, they explained this, I think, in chapter 5, where it was talking about all the, because if you go through church, listening to them read the Bible to you, every time you say Mary Magdalene, you would assume that this is the same exact Mary. But it's just like the example I gave today and us using the name Karen. Everybody today knows that it, depending on how you use it. If you know that this person is not named Karen from birth, just by the inflections and the tone of your voice when you, okay, Karen, we all would know that her name is not really Karen. But it's Karen is a name that's describing a certain type of female in our generation, somebody that don't know how to mind their own business, right? That's being nice. So, but that's the same way in the Gospels, the way Mary is used. Or every time you see Mary, because there are a bunch of different Marys, but the Marys are referring to the women as being rebellious females. But the rebelliousness is not against Yah, it's against the Roman rule and the empire that's trying to take over everything, the whole world, Hebrews, stuff, everybody, right? Rome was ruling. Rome is still ruling, right? Okay. Just in case you forgot, or maybe you weren't here for that one. Okay. As are the contradictions of Mary Magdalene's touching and not touching Jesus, and her telling and not telling the disciples that Jesus has risen, this single insight allows the truth, that is, the combined version, to be seen. Moreover, Mary Magdalene, like Jesus Christ, can also be seen as a title, not just a name. Mary Magdalene simply means Mary from Magdala, a town in Galilee. From the Roman perspective, any rebellious female, that is, any Mary from Magdala, would be a Mary Magdalene. The point that the authors wish the logical reader to understand here is simply that the same name can be given to more than one person. The authors of the New Testament constructed the puzzle of the empty tomb in such a way that its solution, the realization that more than one character is being referred to by the same name, is also the solution to the understanding of the New Testament itself. There can be more than one Mary Magdalene, and therefore there can be more than one Jesus. The notion that the New Testament is referring to more than one individual as Jesus, while seemingly far fetched, is actually the only way to resolve the contradictory facts within it. In fact, as with Mary Magdalene, the authors made it logically impossible for the Jesuses described in the four Gospels to have been the same person. And as I have shown, logic, memory, and humor are the prerequisites the authors of the New Testament require of a reader to understand its truth. One way in which the New Testament reveals that there is more than one Jesus is the different genealogical genealogy. Y'all know what I'm saying. Genealogical. It got genealogies. Okay. Y'all know. Okay. One way in the New Testament, one way in which the New Testament reveals that there is more than one Jesus is the different genealogies for the Jesuses in Matthew and Luke. Since there is nothing inadvertent within the New Testament, two distinct genealogies would indicate, of course, two distinct individuals. Likewise, the Jesus who was crucified in the Gospel of John could not be the Jesus who was crucified in any of the synoptic Gospels because he is crucified on the day before Passover, whereas all the other Jesuses are crucified on Passover itself. Also, each of the Jesuses in the four Gospels has a group of disciples with slightly different names. And of course, nowhere in the Gospel is there a physical description of Jesus. One of the reasons that the satiric element of the many Jesuses was not noticed previously is that early in Christian history, a redactor made an editorial change to the name of the New Testament character today known as Barabbas. Barabbas is a composite word made up from the Hebrew bar, which means son, and Abba, which means father, which is to say, son of the father. While the character excuse me, while the character is known today simply as Barabbas. This was not his name in a version of the New Testament which early church scholars were familiar with. We know from Origen, 250 CE, and others, and that's footnote 115. We know from Origen, 250 CE, and others that the versions of the New Testament they were familiar with referred to this character not as Barabbas, but as Jesus Barabbas. Origen wrote concerning his dismay over the fact that the name of the criminal whom Jesus was imprisoned with was Jesus Barabbas, that is, Jesus, the Son of the Father, Although he did not recognize the name as satirical, he sensed intuitively that there was something wrong with Jesus' cellmate having a name so similar to his own. This concern was evidently shared by later church officials because all the earliest extant copies of the New Testament, Sinaiticus, Alexandrius, and Vitanicus, refer to this character only as Barabbas. However, based on modern scholarship, both the New English Bible and the Scholars Version, reference 116, have decided to give Jesus Barabbas as the name of this character in their translations. In such a translation, the purpose of the character named Jesus Barabbas becomes clear. The New Testament is flatly stating that there was more than one Jesus. Notice the humor in Pilate's statement below. I will therefore chastise him and release him. The way the grammar is constructed, the sardonic comedy becomes that it is. Okay. The way the grammar is structured, the sardonic comedy becomes that it is impossible to know which Jesus Pilate is referring to as him. Notice also that as they were at the empty tomb, the Jews are characterized as being highly emotional. The scornful humor derives from the idea that in such a state they cannot tell one Jesus from the other. Quote, but they all cried out together, away with this man and release to us Jesus Barabbas, a man who has been thrown into prison for an insurrection started in the city and for murder. Pilate addressed them once more, desiring to release Jesus, but they shouted, crucify, crucify him. A third time, he said to them, why? What evil has he done? I have found in him no crime deserving death. I will therefore chastise him and release him. But they were urgent, demanding with loud cries that he should be crucified, and their voices prevailed. So Pilate gave sentence that their demand should be granted. End quote. And that's Luke 23, verses 18 through 24. In each of the Gospels, following the resurrection, the disciples are described as encountering a character named Jesus. Hey, Jerry, shalom, shalom. However, the dead cannot come back to life. Let me read that again. In each of the Gospels, following the resurrection, the disciples are described as encountering a character named Jesus. However, the dead cannot come back to life. The authors of the Gospels are simply continuing the right joke that starts with the disciples mistaking one another for angels in the empty tomb of Lazarus. Each gospel satirically reveals that the individual disciples believed to be the resurrected Messiah is different from the one who was crucified by repeatedly stating that they could not recognize the resurrected Jesus. The related passages follow. Quote, when they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted. Matthew 28 and 17. After this, he appeared in another form to two of them as they were walking into the country. Mark 16:12. But they were terrified and frightened and supposed they had seen a spirit. Luke 24 and 37. While they were talking and discussing together, Jesus himself drew near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. Luke 24:15 through 16. Just as day was breaking, Jesus stood on the beach, yet the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. John 21 and 4. End the quotes. In John 20, verse 15, below, Mary Magdalene is also unable to recognize, confuse him with a gardener. This passage is part of the root and branch element of derisive humor, which centers around Titus Caesar, who was carried away to the Mount of Olives. This episode is the prophetic and satiric climax of the New Testament. It is the moment that foresees Titus switching himself for the Jewish Messiah, which actually occurs in John 21. That is when, following his killing of Jesus, Titus begins to be the Jesus of Christianity. A reader who is able to understand the following prophecy regarding Titus has essentially solved the central puzzle of the New Testament and wars of the Jews. Notice the brilliant irony in Mary's mistaking the Messiah for a gardener and asking if he was and asking if he has carried him away. This is exactly what happens to Eleazar, who is carried away by a gardener on the Mount of Olives. The authors have Mary mistake the individual for a gardener because this creates a satirical prediction of what in fact has already occurred. The truth is a mirror image of the surface narration. While Jesus is mistaken for a gardener who has not carried the Messiah away, Titus becomes a gardener who is mistaken for Jesus and who carries away the Messiah. Quote, Jesus said to her, Woman, why are you weeping? Whom do you seek? Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away. Jesus said to her, Mary. She turned and said in Hebrew, Rabboni, which means teacher. End quote. John 20, verse 15 through 16. The following passage from the Wars of the Jews reveals why Titus finds it necessary to create a religion that worships him without its members knowing it. Titus's problem is that the Sicarii, excuse me, Titus's problem is that the Sicarii refuse to call him Lord, even after being tortured. To circumvent this stubbornness, Titus simply switches himself into the Jews' Messiah. The ultimate cruel joke of Christianity is that it causes Jews to call Caesar their Lord without their knowing it. The passage also contains another element of Christianity, evidently stolen from the Sicarii movement, that of its members rejoicing while being tortured for refusing to renounce their faith. Quote, the Sicarii, whose courage, or whether we ought to call it madness or hardness in opinions, everybody was amazed at. For when all sorts of torments and vexations of their bodies that could be devised were made use of to them, they could not get any one of them to comply so far as to confess, or seem to confess, that Caesar was their Lord. But they preserved their own opinion in spite of all the distresses that were brought to, as if they received these torments and the fire itself with bodies insensible of pain, and with a soul that is in a manner rejoiced under them. But what was most of all astonishing to the beholders was the courage of the children, for not one of these children was so far overcome by these torments as to name Caesar for their Lord. So far does the strength of the courage of the soul prevail over the weakness of the body. End quote. And that's reference 117. So if you've forgotten or if you're new, remember, my lips is dry. Remember the Sicarii, right? When you hear Sicarii today, if you're familiar with the Hebrew roots movement, right, or the Black Hebrew Israelites, when you hear Sicarii, you will mistakenly think that this is who they were talking about. Although Sicarii, the current group today that you see, I'm sorry, y'all. They named themselves after this group, Sicarii, but this group, Sicarii, when they're talking about being tortured, these were the real people who were tortured. They were real Hebrews who they were called rebellious, but they were rebellious against Romans, this same type of thing. And they were mad that the Sicarii, which they label as the lower class of the Hebrews, right? They say we ain't having. It's like when I was explaining this, like the Sicarii is like the one straight out the hood. We we not, right? They were, we're not gonna call them vicious, but they were like, you ain't coming in, you ain't running all over us, but they considered them the lowest of the Hebrew class, and so they developed the name Sicarii. But the Sicarii wasn't having it. They were not bowing to Rome. They were not bowing to Caesar. Anything. They put up a fight, and although they were doing their own shenanigans, breaking y'all's Torah and stuff, you weren't going to make them worship somebody else. Although in their foolishness, they decided to do some stuff they did, but you ain't going to come tell them they're going to go worship another God other than y'all, right? So that's why it was always this war against the Sakari. Even when you read the book of Maccabees and all that stuff, you get more details about that, right? So when you hear Sakari here, this is the group who they're talking about, the ones who would not bow to Rome, the ones who would not call Caesar Lord and God and Titus. They weren't having it. So they tortured them. They called them demons and devils and stuff. So when you hear that in the New Testament, that's who they're referring to, not actual demonic entities, but actually they're referring to the Hebrews. And if you were here as it broke that down, you'll begin to see. So when you go read it now, you'll never be able to read the New Testament the same way ever again. Once you have the truth about how it was created, why it was created, and all the details and all the things that you can go back and look into to verify that this is a complete spoof of Titus's campaign and the fight that he was having against Yahuwah's people during this time, right? Okay. So when it seems like I kind of talk about this offline a little bit, but when you hear Christians, it was like, well, it seems like the Bible is coming to pass, like right here, the same stuff. Yeah, it does because they wrote it. But the way it was written, it seemed like it's evergreen. But if you look at it closely, because they wrote it, they control the prophecies, right? And what's crazy is that people can have, depending on how much you put into yourself of the New Testament, it will begin to affect your dreams and the prophecies that you get that will line up with what's in the book. It's crazy how it happens, right? It's almost like literally I'm really looking at the human bodies in a different way and how easily they are programmed and how easily they can be deprogrammed, right? Because our human body, like y'all hear me say, our body is literally like an avatar for our spirit. Like this outside shell, this is not us. The real us is our spirit, right? And you can only come into this realm if you have a physical avatar. If you ever watched the movie Avatar, like you can't even get into their world unless you have either a special suit, like the outside world they had the because they couldn't breathe the air or whatever. But if you put yourself into the little sleep chamber and all that stuff, you can go into it in the dream world or whatever, but you would have an avatar body that was prepared for you, right? So it's almost like that even women that get pregnant, the avatar is being created in this realm, but the spirit comes in and activates the avatar. So when it takes its first breath, now the spirit has been fused with the avatar and we live in this realm right here, right? That's how this, when I explain to my kids and stuff, it's easy to understand that way, which it literally is that way, right? But these bodies can be programmed with what you put in it and what you don't put in it. So if you're constantly being inundated with the New Testament or with anything, mind you, but you see it a lot, and that's what, if Christians don't understand this, they think everything is coming from Yah. And a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it is the programming that has been programmed into you, whether you're reading programming into yourself or somebody else is teaching you and that programming is getting into you, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your dreams and it's going to affect what you think you hear, right? And because there are different voices that you can hear in this realm, right? And if you don't really take time and study that a little bit and really pay attention, you're going to miss it. That's why it's easy to fool Christians or a lot of people who are super spooky, spiritual, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't really matter what religion, but we use Christianity a lot because that's the sect where I came from, and I can tell you because I lived it all my life, right? They're easily fooled and their emotions are easily manipulated. So when you see different things happening in the world that they read about in scripture, they automatically just connect it like, oh, this is prophecy coming to pass. And in a way, it is, right? But not like real prophecy. It's what they've written many years ago that they keep using and they just keep showing over and over. And it's really easy to fool nowadays in the information age because of social media and all the electronics and the different mediums where we can continue to push misinformation or things that are not true in religion, right? As long as you can keep that in front of people, you can keep their emotions manipulated and they can't see and they will be blind. But you can test this principle yourself by simply removing yourself from all, go on a social media break, like all the stuff, the news and everything. And you're going to begin to realize that your mind begins to clear a little bit, so to speak, right? And the anxiousness goes away of, oh my gosh, what's happening? They're making FEMA camps. They're going to come kicking our doors so we ain't getting the shot. All this stuff. You only have that going on with you because they're constantly putting those type of things in front of your face and allowing the stuff to be pushed through social media. That keeps you, it's almost like it keeps you high on a drug all the time, and you cannot think straight. So the precautions and things that you're taking it based on the information that you're seeing in social media and the constant terrible news that the news channels put out, right? Oh, I would like to see that. Yusuf said they're shooting a movie called The New Folly Testament in real life, pretending to fulfill the prophecies in that Folly book. Yeah. So but the question, can we please ask what happens when our spirit or our avatar dies? You simply, I'm gonna try and say it as simple as this. You don't ever die, right? That I do know. You don't ever die. But when your avatar dies or this human body dies and your spirit is released from it, you just go into the unseen realm or the spiritual realm or whatever. But you never die. You just lose your license to operate here in the physical realm. But you're still there. You're still there. I could really kind of get into a little bit of it, but which I'm looking into more of that stuff as well. And there are some, let me explain it like this. There are some scriptures, even in the Old Testament, that as of right now seem like it's just out of place. It's just like kind of placed there, right? But if you sit and think about, okay, hear me out, y'all. Hear me out. I'm still kind of looking into it, but it really makes me think. Okay. So, the scripture where it says, I want to make sure I word this right? Because I don't want y'all to think I'm going off, but hear what I'm saying. Okay. So the scripture where it says that we aren't to commune with the dead, right? Clearly. We know you don't do seances. We know that's a fact. You don't go doing that. But right, it kind of seems out of place as you begin to look at different things, even praying and stuff, right? When we pray to Yah, he's in the unseen realm. And there aren't too many people that have died and come back to life, right? If they have died and come back to life, it's within like that 3-day period, really. And it's not that they necessarily have died. Granted, on the medical table, okay, everything stopped beating, you're dead, but then, oh my gosh, you come back. You didn't really die. There's actually like a medical term for some things that even some people who have actually been written off as dead and they've been dead for a few days and they actually wake up in the morgue. They weren't actually dead. There is this medical condition where it was seen that everything has ceased, right? And they check everything, they double check, nothing, no blood flowing, heart not pumping, all that stuff, and you seem like you're dead. But I forget what the condition is called, but you're not dead. The body has just been put into an induced state for whatever reason it happens. I'm not quite sure why it happens. But it looks like everything is just done. It's time to make funeral arrangements for you. But then you seem to come back to life a few days later, right? Now you have those cases, but you can't, as you begin to understand some of these things, you can't really say that they're dead, even though by all actuality it looks like, okay, yeah, you died and you came back or whatever. It looks like you've gone beyond the grave and was able to come back. And it's not really the case for real. Now, you can say that about somebody that's been dead for 2 weeks, right? We have not seen a case like that. It's always been a matter of a couple days where that the medical issue, condition, whatever that's called, where they will come back, right? But in all actuality, they weren't fully dead going into the other realm yet. right? There was something that was still there, that still connected, although the technology we have, it can't pick that up. It doesn't necessarily really understand that yet on why that happens, and nobody can really. Some people, they explain it. I'm gonna pull up some of the stuff. I'm gonna share some of the stuff with y'all so y'all can look and see what I'm talking about. But they weren't really dead, or people that say, "Oh, bless Jesus, they was dead and came back to life." Okay, I get it. You're hyped up on emotions and stuff, and you're really kind of ignorant about some things that medically that are possible and have been proven over and over and over again. Although it can't really be explained in a way on why it happens, they really don't know why it happens. And it seemed like it's random chances where certain people may die. And this happened with all colors, creeds, and everything, but they still don't really know why and how it happens. But it does. It seemed like they're dead, but they come back to life. But it's never been more than, I want to say, 4 days. I want to say 4 days. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's 3 or 4 days. It's never longer than that, because we know that you dead. You ain't coming back. Nobody ever comes back from real death, right? Has never happened. And although the New Testament say, "Oh, he dead and he rose again," but still, it was still like the 2 or 3 days or whatever. So even still, even that then, even when they talk about this, there are some groups of people that actually talk about this, where, okay, so he was here, but he couldn't have. If he came back, he couldn't have really have died. So it's all these different type of arguments and stuff, right? So, but kind of going back to what Jerry asked, can we ask what happens when our spirit or our avatar dies? The spirit never dies, from what I understand, because you can communicate, and this is getting back to what I was saying, how some things seem like they're misplaced in the scriptures. Although it tells you not to communicate with the dead, like you're supposed to have seances and go trying to call up granddaddy that's been dead for 40 years. You're not supposed to do that. But you can commune with the spirit realm, which is crazy. So it makes me think, okay, this says not to talk to the dead. And even in my dreams, I'm so aware of it. Even when I tell you about some of my dreams, and even the ones about dead people, I'm like, why y'all talk to me? We're not supposed to be talking to the dead. But we clearly know that you can communicate with the unseen realm. Matter of fact, Christianity is predicated upon talking to uh, uh, Jesus, who died and went into the spiritual realm, and he can come in and out of both realms at will, right? You're talking to somebody. Essentially, he died, right? So Christianity has you talking and praying to a dead God, right? A dead God. That's not what we do. We talk to Yah, right? But he's always been in the spiritual realm. So all these kind of questions now I'm going through dealing with, trying to understand. I'm like, okay, tell you not to talk to the dead or to those who have transitioned into the unseen realm. And you got different groups of people say they talking to their ancestors. I don't know. I'm not saying ancestors. When I say ancestors, it's simply referring to the people who have actually died and they've gone into the other realm. We've buried their physical body, their avatar into the ground, or we've cremated it or whatever. But their spirit has gone into the unseen realm, right? So you think, okay, well, you get all these different things, but even in some of our dreams, we get real live, real time information from the unseen realm. Whether you're sleeping, you get it through the dream, or you're hearing a voice from the unseen realm and you're getting information and you put it into practice in the physical realm and it works. So all these type of things, I was like, okay, how do we really explain this? This spiritualness, the people call it demonic activity, whatever, but clearly it's something. It's because the spirit never dies. There is a spiritual realm. We just lose our license to operate here, right? But the spirit never dies. The body does. That goes to the grave. It returns to the dust from which it was created, but the spirit lives on forever. And from what I understand, I ain't saying, listen, just stick with me, y'all. People do talk to spirits in the spiritual realm that's not just Yah, right? So those things are there, and it really happens. Can't really explain it all to you at this point. It's stuff I'm looking into and trying to see how these things line up, right? Because we learning a lot about what we thought we knew that we really didn't know. And none of us have gone there and come back, right? So I don't think those who have I think there's a I don't know, there are rules, right? Like you can't go there and come back. At least as far as we know up till today. We hear stories like, oh, well, during the resurrection, all these different things is going to happen then, it's going to happen then, but it hasn't happened. So we don't really know for sure. We just keep passing the same information down throughout the generations where none of the generations have ever really experienced it, right? So I'm just, being a logical thinker, not trying to question everything, but I am literally questioning everything. Yahuwah said test. I'm testing what can be tested from what I understand to see. And as I begin to test, what I can see is error. It'll go over into the error list. What I can be proven and it's true will be put in the truth list. And as I continue to grow, if some things that I put on the error list previously, I need to revisit. Wait a minute, that is true. We need to put that over here. Then I'll adjust when we get to it. But some things I don't really know, but I do know that this body goes to the dirt and it decomposes, right? But the spirit never dies, right? Now, some people have the ability to see in the spiritual realm, whether it's through dreams or open visions, like the church call it, or if you living in some of the other places, they call it astral projecting. That I do know when we talked about that. If you go back and look at the excuse me, look at a couple of videos where I talked about astral projecting, people can do that too. People have the ability to do that. And it's not like demonic or new age, although if you grew up in a church, when you hear people talking about it, that's what they label it. They label it that because they don't really understand what's going on. And they're still under that emotional, spooky teaching of the church that don't really understand how the human body and the spirit operates, right? Because you can project your spirit. You really can. I'm not in the habit of teaching it, but I tested it and it works. It's there and it works for anybody if you're in the habit of doing it. And people actually use this. You can use it for good and you can use it for evil. It's neither good nor evil, it's how you use it. People have used it to spy on people. There are some spouses that know how to do it, that spy on their spouses and they find out stuff and it blows my mind. I'm like, this is crazy. You become good enough understanding how matter, body, unseen elements that are here, how they work. You can learn how to manipulate the elements. Not necessarily, we'll just say for the conversation's sake, manipulate the elements, but it's not necessarily manipulating, it's understanding how they work. And you can actually move things when you're having the outer body experiences or the astral projection experiences, right? You can actually move physical things with your spirit. And I've experienced it before. I haven't done it to scare people, but I wanted to test it. And you see stuff like this in movies all the time. You think it's just good entertainment, but those who have been exposed to some of that stuff, you know that what they're showing you is real. And there are some movies that actually give you real steps. Although they're not gonna tell you this is step number one, this is step number two. They will play out a story and show you what they do. And I watched some of this stuff. I'm like, oh, if people really understood what they were watching and what they were showing in Hollywood. Hollywood knows this. Hollywood understands this. And they play it in front of your face all day long and they use it against you. People's inventions and ideas are stolen through outer body experiences and people understanding how to project themselves, things that people could never have gotten a hold of. Even like the Matrix movie, right? Remember the woman that the whole big thing that the black woman, that was her idea, that was her book. They don't understand. She don't understand how that idea was stolen from a woman living in the ghetto, and now it made its way to Hollywood and she won and proved her case. How do y'all think they got that information from her? Right? It's a couple different ways they could have done it. They could have gotten it through the scrying screens, i.e., the telephones, the the cell phones, the LCD screen televisions, or somebody who knows how to move their spirit in between the realms, get that information. And you have to remember, it's not okay, well, she's this one little person here, how did them all these people over here locate her? Because once you understand a little bit about the spiritual realm, when you operate in it, when you get in it, there's not really like this big distance and time like we perceive time in the physical realm, right? That's not there. Like you can literally step in there, and it doesn't matter where the information is, you can pull it, right? So a lot of people's witty inventions and ideas are stolen by operating through this. That's why I'm like, y'all really don't understand where we live, what we are, and what these bodies can do. Can't really talk about it a lot. Now, if this was a new age channel, I'd be going in and just blah blah. Hey, this, I probably have all kinds of subscribers because people are out here looking for this. But I understand if people don't really understand it. I'm not trying to hurt people with information, but you should be aware of what's happening to you so you're not being manipulated. And there are pastors and teachers and evangelists and apostles and prophets and teachers who understand this, who actually work in the Christian sect, and they have the big churches, and they understand this and they use it against their members. And the members think they're so holy and so filled with the spirit of Yah, and they can call down things and prophecies and dreams. Like, no, they're not. They are charlatans, and they are fooling you guys, and y'all are dumping your money into their pockets every time you show up. And when you couldn't show up because the vid shut everything down, they started to get smart and get real savvy with social media. Give this way, text to this number and give here. I'm like, y'all. And you try and tell people, it's sad to watch, especially when some people won't wake up and listen to you. But everybody has their own time when they wake up and see the truth for whatever reason. But a lot of things that you see, especially in the church and some of the healings and all the prophetic things, it's not what it seems to be. Some is, but a lot of it is not what it seems to be. Because this, I like how my uncle said, one of my uncles said, he said, this earth is like one huge laboratory for humans. And it really is. Yahuwah created it and he created it perfectly. But everything that's in within the realm of this earth here, in this realm, in this 3D realm, can be manipulated in this realm and outside of this realm. And we are able to operate on both realms. If you begin to understand it, you begin to understand some things about the body. I really think everybody should take anatomy and physiology in school. So first of all, you can just learn the basics about the body, learn every part and all these different things. And once you begin to understand that, you will see how they have taken things, even in teachings, and even a lot of things that they have taken and labeled it as occult or Illuminati type stuff is really not. It's actually blueprints designed on what's in our body, and they design it just like what's in the body. You can take it and look at it and put the body side by side with a lot of these things and figures and stuff, and you'll realize it's different portions of the body. Just they've just blown it up and they've animated a little bit and put it out there, so it's not so easily recognizable where you don't realize, oh, that's the pineal brain. I mean the pineal gland inside of the brain, right? They took it and look like the all-seeing eye, right? Oh, that's demonic and all this. No, it's not. They use it for that, and they scare people, kind of keep you away from truth. But once you really start understanding these things, you will see your life begin to take on a more stable type foundation, and you you become less spiritually spooky and realize, wait a minute, people using these things to just get over and manipulate and take everything that you don't understand, where they tell you you sit and wait for Jesus to come get you, right? But they taking everything. Earth is literally, to me, Earth is like a level of the game that we're in, right? Coming to earth is like a level of the game of growth that our spirits are in. Because every spirit that comes here, that arrives to earth, we're supposed to learn something here in this realm. And then when we leave, we transition on back into the spiritual realm and we go wherever, right? But we're still there. We never die. It's just this realm. We're done with this level, right? With this particular avatar. The avatar is no more. Now you just kind of go on, right? Some people ask, do we repeat the levels, right? That I'm not too sure. People call it reincarnation. I'm I'm not quite sure on that. I've seen some things, I've looked at some things. Some things are really, I'll say really, really interesting to me. Um, but I really haven't been sold on that because now that I understand how the spirit works, I don't, and I'm not may not be 100% correct on this. I'm not gonna say that people when they die they can't come back in a different avatar. I'm not saying that because I'm not really sure about that. I'm really not sure about reincarnation. And I only say that because now that I understand a lot of things of what the spirit can do and how you can pull information from the spiritual realm if you understand how the spirit works. So some people like there are some things where if you go to YouTube and you look up uh, children who say that they've been here before and they'll point out to you the houses they used to live and they have information. 4 and 5 year olds, nobody's ever told them information. Their parents get kind of curious because the kids keep talking about it and they'll take them to this place they're always talking about and somebody be there at the house like, oh yes, that was Susan, excuse me, Susan had this and that, and Susan had a birthmark here, and this child just happened to have the birthmark, the same place that Susan that died 80 years ago had, and some of the same things. Those things, that's what I'm like, I'm not really sure because some of those things I can't quite explain, but there are some things that I clearly know that it can just be pulled from the spiritual realm and it can almost be like downloaded to you and you can it'll seem like you know it front to back and anybody you can explain it to people like you were there, get like details. That can happen by being able to, if you know how the spirit works, you can just pull stuff from the spiritual realm and just go off and you can fool people. Some people do it on purpose and fool people just kind of get what they want. Some people it just they stumble into it and it happens and they don't quite know, but they know, wait a minute, that's not my information. That information came to me, right? So when that happens, it's like I'm not sure if it's one of those type of things where that information came to them or they pulled it from that realm and it wasn't necessarily them 80 years ago and they come back in this generation in a different but that it's it's weird, right? So there's a lot of different stories and stuff and people's imagination can get really good. So some things are really hard to decipher whether it's true or whether it's error. That's why we test everything. But some things, at least from my understanding, because I've never been all the way transitioned over into that realm, I don't know. And I can't test it and I can't prove it. And when I can test it and prove it, I won't be able to come back and tell y'all here, at least not in this form, right? And so also something else that I understand, right? So in this realm, we use modes of communication, right? We use modes of communication, speaking with the mouth. In the spiritual realm, you don't really necessarily, you can call it people communicating telepathically and stuff like that. you don't you don't necessarily have to speak with your mouth. Even now when information comes to you in this realm and you hear it in your spirit or in a dream or whatever, or you could be standing like it always happens when I'm washing dishes or cleaning, information that just kind of come to me. And it's not like somebody standing there. Sometimes it's like I can hear a voice, like you can hear me speaking out of my mouth, but clearly there's nobody there, and the information just kind of comes to me or it's downloaded to me, and I understand it's coming from another realm. But then I take that information or it says go check this, and I'll go check. I'm like, oh snap, like simple things, right? Most everybody will check their doors and windows before they go to bed. Go upstairs, go to bed, or wherever your room is. You make sure your house on lockdown, but sometimes you may just get in the the day and just forget stuff. And then I could be laying in the bed or I'll wake up, your back door is unlocked, right? James is asleep, kids not in the room, but I'll wake up immediately, your back door is unlocked. And I know when I hear that, get up, go check your door because your back door is probably unlocked. And lo and behold, I'll get up and my back door is unlocked. Do I get spooked? Not really, because I realized probably, first of all, we got cameras and stuff around our house. And we have like double locks on our gates. So, and I know the ring didn't go off out. Yes, babe.
My other teeth broken.
Let me see. What? Oh, no, it's loose. Okay. Well, it's time for it to loosen up to get your adult teeth, baby. Be careful what you're eating. But I know I'll check the ring, make sure nobody done hopped the fence or broke the fence or anything, or ain't nobody outside. But what I realized, our oldest son would probably have went to go take the trash out or something earlier and didn't lock the door back, right? So it's things like that. So I think about those type of things, right? And I think about it saying, well, don't communicate with the dead, or the unseen realm, but the unseen realm is constantly communicating with us. And it's not physical, it's like we hear it inwardly. And I'm sure everybody here has experienced that in some form or fashion. So you all can identify with what I'm saying. So it's those type of things. Okay, we're not to communicate with the unseen realm, but Yahuwah is in the unseen realm. And there are angels or whatever have you, messengers, whatever you want to call them. They're constantly trying to get messages to us or save us here in the physical realm. So it's like I'm still trying to make sense of all of that because it says, well, don't communicate with them, but they're constantly trying to communicate with us, right? People call them different things, whatever. And even some of the information, it helps us. It saves some of our lives. A time when Josiah, my 9-year-old, he was about to be really sick. That's when we found out he was allergic to dairy. I was sitting in my living room and I saw him. I literally, it's like I saw him getting sick and I seen his eyes turn black and start sinking down into his face. I'm like, what was that? The next day, his eyes began to get really dark and I thought about that. But what happened, no, I had that, but me and my husband were out of town. We were in Texas, and my aunt was here, and I had that while we were in the midst of traveling back. But what happened was she had got them some Go-Gurts, the little yogurt packets or whatever, and he ate it, and that's when we found out he was allergic. And so when we got back in town that next day, that's when I saw his eyes like getting dark, like you know how somebody's sick and their eyes just get dark. That started happening, and he wasn't eating, and he just turned 1 not too long, and he was starting to be real lethargic. And we took him to the pediatric and everything. Oh, he's just a little dehydrated, you know. Just people watch on and give him some Pedialyte and stuff, and so that was it. They didn't give us anything, and he'll be okay. Just a little virus passing through. But I know what I had saw, and it seemed like it was an emergency what I had saw. So we brought him back home, listened to that one pediatric doctor. And I'm not gonna, I'll just tell the gist of the story. So when we came back and I called him, I said he looked like he's getting worse, or he'll be finding it's a virus passing through. I'm like, bump that. We're gonna take him to a different doctor. We went to the emergency room and we actually got there, and there was an African American doctor there. The other one, she was of another nationality, but she looked at him and saw. She said, "Oh no." And they called for an ambulance for him because you could tell like something was wrong with his child, right? A vibrant child, you could look at a picture like I'm like, I don't know why the doctor was. I was like, his eyes are black. I said he's not eating. He's almost looking like a skeleton. You telling me it's just a virus passing through? Or go home, he'll be okay. Just keep him hydrated, right? And within a day, it seemed to get worse, and that's when they found out. You know, the female black doctor, whatever they called the ambulance. Like as soon as we arrived, they saw him. And they got him there. He was in ICU. Josiah was in ICU for a week. They had him under the tents and everything. And they was testing him for different things over and over. They couldn't find anything. I was like, I think he's allergic to dairy. How do you know that? Well, I couldn't tell them I had a dream, but what else could I tell them? You know, I was like, This gonna sound kind of crazy. I said, but had a dream, and I think it's dairy. Because it was other things to the dream and everything. They said, oh no. And so they was testing it, checking his blood and all this stuff. And after almost a whole week of not listening to me, they finally decide to check and see if he was allergic to dairy. And lo and behold, that's what was causing all the problem. I'm like, if y'all had to freaking listen to me when we first got here, he wouldn't be here for a whole week. And I'm like, Father, keep our child alive. And we was there at the hospital for the whole week under the tent. It was one of the hardest things we had to watch our child go through. And the doctors thinking, and I get it. Doctors a lot of time they do know more than us, right? But sometimes it doesn't necessarily mesh with the spiritual realm and understanding of what we know and what we see, especially if they're not spiritual. Yes. Okay, give me a second. I'm about to end this food. But so it's those type things, y'all, that I'm looking at. I'm like, okay, what is really going on? What is really the truth? The physical realm and the spiritual realm. How do we reconcile these things, right? On what we should do and what we shouldn't do when the unseen realm is constantly communicating with us, giving us information that we actually take and can use in the physical realm. Like, oh, okay, well, I got this information from a dream or whatever. Not everybody that gets the information, you just got to test the spirits or whatever you want to call it, because that doesn't work for everybody, but it works for a lot of people. And people who understand it, as you begin to understand it, you can actually use it as a tool and tap into it for your life here. And I really do believe that Yahuwah made that on purpose, because everybody can do it. I think the teaching and understanding of what we are, who we are, what this place is, we've been so far removed from it for such a long time that it's, oh my God, it's new age, stay away from it. Anything that we don't understand, we're afraid of it. We're afraid of the unknown. And it's not that it's unknown, it's just unknown to us in our generation, right? And all of those of us who are beginning to look back into these things, and everything always seems spooky and scary and of the devil when you first start revealing it to people. Some stuff is, some stuff is not. But I realize humans, we seem to just be spooky by nature, because even if you go look into it, before bathtubs were a normal part of life and in everybody's house, they used to say that the bathtub was a contraption of the devil, y'all. Come on. The bathtub. Things that are unknown to humans, we don't understand it. We just label it occult, spooky, of the devil. Stay away from it. It's not of God. Like, we would laugh at that today. We literally just laughed at that today. But that was a real thing when the bathtub was first invented, right? So it's things like that, y'all. I know I didn't talk a whole lot, and we kind of paused, but we got onto this when we was talking about the Sakari, right? And how they were being persecuted by Rome for not bowing down to their religion that they wanted to use to pretty much overtake the whole world, and what they've already overtaken the whole world with, right? So, and I ain't gonna say get sidetracked. We started talking about that with some of the questions that they asked about the spirit. So, but yeah, we're gonna pause right here because I done lost my train of thought. Not really. I just pause right here. We kind of went off a little bit from what we were talking about here, but I wanted to answer the question. So with that being said, we already an hour and 23 minutes. My gosh, 2, 12. All right, y'all. So with that being said, that's the reading for today. It is Friday, October the 1st, 2021, day 267 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, another 3-year consecutive day count, day 936. We read Job 1, 2, and 3, and we read Caesar's Messiah, page 206 to 212. And tomorrow, when we come in, we'll start with the last paragraph and just mark it right here. The little last paragraph that we read when I was actually reading today. And we'll just keep going and finish going through this whole little comedy of errors in the 4 gospels and putting it together and see what was going on. So let's do the blessing real quick. I saw a couple other questions. I'll look at them real quick. All right. All right. Remember, y'all, the blessing is found in Numbers, chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses is a Nazarite vow. Man or woman can take it. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with the hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship.
Mom.
Yahuwah will lift up the wholeness of his being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Your tooth is not ready to come out yet. It just got loose, sis.
Oh, my other tooth just got out.
Yeah, your other one got out.
My other one already not getting out.
That's what that. Okay, y'all. Let me say. Uncle Nathaniel. Oh, you said, can anybody say David Copperfield? Okay, I saw when that comment popped up when we was talking about the spiritual realm going in and out. Like in the little, yeah, David Copperfield and a lot of other magicians or black magicians or whatever, they understand some of the stuff. Now, some stuff they do be using sleight of hand, but there are some of them who are actually performing magic before your very eyes. They call it, let's just keep in terms what they call it, magic, right? They understand how to manipulate the elements, understand how it works.
I can say hi, Nani.
Oh yeah, Trina, that's good. Like in the little movie Souls, he didn't want to go. He didn't want to go back because he couldn't come back if he did. Yep, you're absolutely right.
Mom.
Even in
Mommy.
Even in like I said, even Hollywood knows this stuff, and they'll put it before your face.
I can say hi, Nani.
Yes, Nani is here. You can say hi to Nani. Just say hi, Nani. She'll respond. Hold on. Okay, there go her picture right there.
Hi, Nani.
Okay. Let's see. Somebody said something.
Mom, I keep doing this.
I like what you said, Yosef, about you responded to Jerry. I'll leave that alone. About where the spirit goes when it dies. I think I mean that's like simply put, but I think I think it's a little bit more than that. I'ma just say that. He said, Jerry, Jerry, you go to sleep with our ancestors. The spirit goes back to Yah, the spirit giver, to be resurrected by the prophet Ezekiel at the valley of dry bones. I can say that's a way to give the gist of it, kind of. But I think at this point today, I think I need to think about it, make sure I'm explaining it the right way. Like I gave y'all like a bunch of words and the things that I understand now. So that's why I said I think it's a little bit more. But the spirit definitely does. The spirit definitely does go back to the unseen realm around us that we can't just like physically see with our eyes unless our physical eyes are open to see it. Okay. All right, y'all. See, Nani said hey. She said, hey, Bella.
Hi, Nani.
All right, y'all. That's it for today. We'll go ahead and get out of here. We'll be back here tomorrow. It's Saturday, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, y'all. We're just gonna pick back up where we left off at today.
Mom, I kissed Nani.
I'm sure she saw your kiss. I'm sure she probably blew you a kiss back too, but you can't see her. They can only see us. All right, y'all. We out of here. I love y'all.
Bye, Nani.
Bruce.
Bye, Nani.
She's gonna say bye. Give her a chance to type it out. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Listen to me rant today. Bruce. Oh, you got it. You clicking the wrong button. Okay.